I'm Dominic Tweddle. I'm Director General of the National Museum of the Royal Navy. And what we're doing is looking at 3 items drawn from our collection. They're on display every day, but sometimes people don't spot what is in front of their noses. So this is an opportunity to look at them more closely. Yeah, well, Nelson, I'm afraid, is a superstar. He was a superstar 200 and something years ago. He remains one. And therefore, he's central to our collection and our story. After all, we have his ship outside the windows of the gallery where we are now. So there's a lot to say about Nelson, and I've chosen 3 objects which illustrates facets of his story and his role. The first object we're going to look at is a locket which contains some of Nelson's hair. So it's about as personal as you can get. It's a kind of relic of Nelson. And it was a popular thing to do at the time. If you remember, people on the whole, died young in that period. And keeping a part of their physical body became very fashionable and was a way of maintaining that link, especially for women often who lived long into widowhood when their men had gone. That may be sounding a bit sexist, but I'm afraid it was the story of the period. So there it is, locket with Nelson's hair. Not the most glamorous of objects. It's made probably of pinchbeck rather than gold, but very nicely arranged spray of hair with a little row of seed pearls to hold the hair together and some embroidery with seed pearls in the background. The slightly annoying thing is that Lady Hamilton has neatly clipped off, or no doubt her jeweller, has snipped off all of the roots of the hair, and that means that we can't test for DNA, which survives in the roots, so we can't reconstruct Nelson's genome. Otherwise, we could create a clone of Nelson in the future, probably more successfully than Dolly the sheep. So the second item I've chosen is, to all intents and purposes, just a plain wooden trunk, the kind of thing that you carried your possessions in and took them on board ship when you sailed. This one's a special one, though, because it contained Nelson's silver. An admiral was expected to entertain. He was a high-ranking representative of the state, and it was important that he played the part. So he had a spectacular collection of silverware. There's a bit of a shock, however, when we open the lid and we discover, in fact, there's no silver in it. Typical museum story, we've got the trunk, but we haven't got the silver, bar one plate. I think Nelson's constant complaint was that he wasn't a wealthy man, but compared with most people in Britain, he was. He just, like many of us, managed to spend just a little bit more than he was able to earn. Okay, we managed to look at 2 objects which have a personal association with Nelson. My third object doesn't. It's a piece of commemorative china. It's what's called a Staffordshire Flatback. They were made in their thousands, and they were on every cottage mantelpiece. And the death of Nelson was a really good subject for a Staffordshire Flatback. So it's a piece of cheap, mass-market pottery. But it just reminds us of the celebrity of Nelson. Still, probably 40 or 50 years after his death, people remembered Nelson just as they do today. There's one kind of odd thing about it. Nelson is wearing pink trousers. And I'm just thinking why, because clearly his trousers were white. And then, of course, he would look as if he had no trousers on a Staffordshire Flatback, so they put pink on.